Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here, and my guest today is Karen Price. Hi, Karen.
Hiya.
So you in Scotland, right?
Yes, in the Highlands of Scotland, yes.
So ever since the Outlander, Scotland became the basically point of interest for so many people. Like people rediscovered all the beautiful nature of Scotland and, Jamie and all the stuff.
Say
Do
no
you
more.
So you inspired probably by the beauty outside of your windows, right?
Definitely, yeah, definitely the place that we live in. Just now it's autumn, so the colours here just now are absolutely beautiful. The reds and the oranges and yellows, and the leaves have all fallen, and the pavements are covered in leaves. And yeah, it's really beautiful. This is probably one of the most stunning times of the year, I think.
Right. So how did you start with felting? Like when did it start?
So years ago, my mum actually sent me on a wet felting course to a wee craft shop in Nairn, where I'm originally from. And I really enjoyed the course. It was a wee landscape picture that I made with the wet felting, but then I never did anything more about it. So I've always done painting and various different things, and I was working at the local primary school, and there's a woman who works there, and she's very crafty, and she does lots of things with fibres and different materials. She's one of the most talented people I've ever met, really. And she said to me, well, I do some needle felting. I think since you like painting, you might like to give that a go. So she took one in and showed me it, and I just thought it was absolutely amazing. And so that Christmas, I bought myself a kit and wrapped it up from the kids, and that's how I started with a wee kit.
So the first time you played with it, was it like immediately easy for you to transfer from painting to felting?
Yeah, I have to say it was a very easy transfer over. Right from the very first picture that I did, I was really pleased with even the first picture that I did. I think the first one that I did, I actually ended up selling at my first craft fair. So it was quite a quick thing. I mean, I can totally see the difference now, 8 years on, than to my first ones. But yeah, I took to it really easily and really enjoyed doing it straight away.
So like if a person not an artist, like in the sense that they can't really paint, do you
Mhm.
think they still can do felting?
Yes, definitely. Anybody can do felting. When I worked at the primary school, I used to do it with the kind of primary 2 and 3 kids, so that's sort of 7-year-old children. And I've also run lots of workshops where people have come to the workshops and said, I haven't done any art since leaving school. I can't draw a straight line. And they all go away delighted with what they've done, because you can use all the different colours and the different textures, and it can be quite abstract. Not everybody's going to do like a perfect Highland cow, but they can do something that they love.
Well, let's talk about Highland cows since
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned them. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yours have so much sass and so much character to them. And there is like this one that I absolutely love with the tongue sticking out. And just like you can see that you caught them in the moment, basically.
Isa. She's called Isa.
What's your connection with the Highland cows?
Well, I was painting Highland cows before I started needle felting Highland cows, and there's a lot of Highland cows round about here, and they're so placid and lovely. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in a field with one, just because they could unintentionally do quite a lot of damage to you. But they just look so lovely. They're just like big furry things that you would want to cuddle and pat. And I think, yeah, just seeing them all the time, and their big eyes and their eyelashes, and yeah, they're just beautiful.
So when you do a cow, I mean, they look alive. Like on your felting painting, they look like it's a real cow, basically. Like
Thank you.
how difficult it is to achieve that level of likeness.
So I'd say to do something like that, you do kind of need to be able to do a wee bit of art. At the workshops before, however, we've used a transfer pen for people who can't draw. So they've had their photograph, and you kind of trace around it with the transfer pen, and then you iron it on so they've got the kind of outline, which at least means that the proportions and things are going to be in the right place, which gives them a good start, rather than if they were to draw it and one eye would be up here and one eye down here. You know, it's not a good start. So at least they've got a base of doing it. But yeah, I think it's a bit of practice to actually be able to do a Highland cow. But I always say to everybody, it's very gradual, and it's the way that you lay down the fibres. You've just got to take little bits at a time and build it up. People tend to go in with a big bit and just sort of plonk it down, and that doesn't work. It just has to be kind of gradual and build it up as you go.
Is that like your meditative spot when you do the felting? Like, do you find yourself at peace when you do it, or does that the process also stresses you to achieve the likeness, to like make it look like a painting?
Yeah, I don't think it stresses me. Sometimes deadlines and all the paperwork and things that go with it, I get a bit stressed out about that. But when I'm actually making a picture, I listen to audible books. So I generally have a story going on in the background, and sometimes I have to rewind it because I haven't actually heard what's going on, but I just sit and the hours just pass by. I'm very lucky to be able to do this every day. Just sit, listen to stories and make pictures. So yeah, if it wasn't for all the other things, all the accounts and ordering and all that kind of things, it would just be a lovely thing to do every day.
Well, when you working on like an animal, right, and you do not only cows, but you do hares and you do some other things, what's the most difficult part to like make it look like it's alive?
I think the thing that makes it look alive in the end is when you put like the highlight into the eyes. If I'm doing commissions for people, I always ask them to try and get a really clear photograph that you can see the colour of the eye and the shape of the eye and everything. And I think it is kind of the eyes, what do they say? The eyes are the window into your soul, they say, don't they? And it really is. Once the eye goes in, and then the wee highlight and the shading, just to make it look like it's not just flat, it is a rounded object. That's really what brings it all to life.
So when you look at, you mentioned that you do it for 8 years and you can see the progress. So when you look at your first cow, like what's the difference between that one and the one you created last week?
I wish I had the first cow to show you now. It's actually on the wall in my dad's art room, the first cow that I ever did. And it looks more like a dog when I look back at it. And it's very, I think I did it on black felt at the time, and it's very fine. I was probably scared of what I was doing at the time. And you can kind of see some of the black felt, and obviously throughout the years I've just developed techniques of how to do it. It's quite kind of, I don't know, wishy-washy, and sort of, you can tell it's a beginner's one, but I was very pleased with it at the time.
Was Dad proud of like the likeness of the cow?
I think so. I mean, he's got it up in his wall in pride of place, so yeah, he likes it. He's got a lot of my pictures up, so.
Is your family, like in general, very supportive of what you're doing?
Yes, almost definitely. My mum is my biggest supporter, and she's my Saturday and Sunday girl. So I do craft fairs throughout the year, and my mum comes with me, and she makes the picnic, brings the flasks, and she blethers to everybody at the craft fair. She knows all of them. And yeah, and it makes such a difference when I've got her with me. Then, you know, it can be quite a long day on your own. Right. So yeah, she's a massive support. My kids, they help, and they're always in seeing what I'm doing. I mean, they're not kids, they're 21 and 17, but they're always interested. They're always interested in what I do. And my husband, he helps me to set up the mark. He weighs a ton, so he's always up on a Saturday morning helping me set things up. He built my studio for me. Him and my dad hand built the studio for me, you know, so I can't really ask for much more. So yeah, they definitely are. My dad, he does a lot of art, but he also does wood turning, so he sells some of his things in the studio. And my mum knits. That's one of my mum's jumpers, so she does lots of knitting.
What do you sell in the fair?
Just 1 second, because you must be leaving me for something. Hello? I'm just doing that YouTube interview. Bye. Right, that's okay. Sorry.
No, not a problem. What do you sell at the craft fair besides the felting pictures?
So I have my original felted pictures, but I probably couldn't be doing this full time, just selling original felted pictures, because not everybody can afford one. So probably about 5 years ago, I started to get mugs and coasters printed with my images. So I've now got a whole range of homeware and giftware that I sell, and recently as well, lampshades, aprons, things like that. So at the craft fair, I've got a pretty full stall. I've never got enough space for everything. So yeah, there's lots of printed products that I sell.
Right. How did COVID affect your business?
Well, it was a big worry to start with. I went into a major panic, as I'm sure everybody did. But what I did was I turned to the internet, and I started to do online markets through Facebook. I organised a few kind of weekend markets and things that I was going to do, and they were really successful. And kind of through them and getting my name out more, a lot of commission work came in. So I was very, very fortunate actually to be able to kind of work steadily throughout COVID. Obviously there wasn't the markets to go out to, but I did a lot online and had my Etsy shop and things like that. So yeah, it was okay actually. We all survived.
What's the most interesting commission you ever done?
I did two cows a couple of months ago, and it was people had bought a picture off of me before. They're from England and they come up here on their holidays, and they'd bought a cow picture off of me before. So they came to the studio one day, probably about 6 months ago. They came to the studio, and they were kind of a middle-aged couple with teenage children, but they'd come up on their holidays and they'd been up at Glen Affric, and the man had asked the woman to marry him. He'd proposed to her up at Glen Affric, and it's such a beautiful place. So they decided that to celebrate getting engaged, that they would like to have a commission made for them. So it was two cows. So it was the bull and the female standing side by side. So I made that for them, and I suppose that's one of the most special ones because it was so lovely to be part of their story as well.
Right. So you also do a lot of landscaping sort of pictures. How do you pick a spot of like what you're trying to portray there?
It just all sort of flows really. Sometimes I'll maybe see a picture of a wee croft house that I like, and sometimes I might see a landscape that I like, and I'll just join the two together and put them in and use a bit of artistic license as well and add different colours in and washing lines and things like that. I always find like a washing line with some washing on it kind of brings it to life. It means somebody actually lives in that house. It's not just an abandoned house. Obviously living where I live, you know, there's beautiful landscapes all over the place. So whenever I'm out, I do take photos. And there's also a few sites that let you use their photos. There's a few free reference photos for artists and things like that on Facebook that I can look through. Probably that's more for Highland cows and things.
Right.
I've also got quite a few good friends who go out a lot and go walking, and they send me their photos, or they'll put them on Facebook and then they let me use them as inspiration. And people actually send me photos of like their granny's croft house. People are always sending me photos like that and saying, you know, do you want to use that in one of your pictures?
But it's
So
not like an exact replica of the landscape. Like you take bits and pieces and you combine it into your fairy tale idea of the...
Yeah, it's a sort of romanticized landscape, yeah.
So when people look at your pictures, do you always like tell them the story of what inspired it, or do you let their imagination sort of guide them?
Sometimes when people come in, even if it's to buy a coaster, they ask, have you got anything that's of Skye? Do you have anything that's in Glen Affric? So, you know, and I do have some that are specific places, and then sometimes I have to say to them, well, actually, that was just a kind of made up place. But they'll say, oh, it reminds me of where I used to go when I was on holidays when I was little, you know, so it is good for their imagination as well. everybody seems to have some sort of memory of an old croft house that they went to.
What's the most unusual for you thing that you felted?
I did a fox, a beautiful fox. Again, it was a story. It was a woman who was about to be 50 years old, and she was originally from Ireland, and her family had a wee glen, a wee sort of woodland in Ireland. So she described it to me and sent some photos as well. And her maiden name was Todd. And Todd, apparently, I didn't know this before, but in Irish means fox. So she wanted the fox. Her granddad used to have honeybees, and he used to have pheasants in the glen. So she sort of told me all about these things, and she wanted an oak leaf and fox gloves. And I just combined all that. So I really feel, I love that picture actually. And I feel like it's a bit of a story. It's more a kind of, yeah, telling a story, the picture.
Right. I mean, I know that in Scotland, storytelling is a big thing, like just folkloric storytelling. Is that part of your upbringing as well?
My mum used to make up stories and tell us stories all the time when we were little, right enough. So yeah, I suppose sometimes I do try and put a wee bit of a story into it, and that's where maybe like the washing line and thing comes in again, and just to sort of give it more than it just being a landscape. It is something that might evoke a memory in somebody.
Right. What kind of materials do you use? Like, do you use something of like an actual cow, let's say, for the cow, or like is like
No,
what's your materials?
so my main thing, I've got it here, is Merino Wool is the main one that I use. And I use that because it's quite a nice flat fibre. It's not too fluffy. So I would say 90% of my pictures is Merino Wool that I use. I've done a dog before using some of its wool. And I've taken some Highland Cow hair off of a fence, but I've never actually used it yet. But I don't know, maybe I might use it for eyelashes or something like that, maybe at some point. But yeah, I would say merino wool mostly, and then you get lots of beautiful blends of wool that you can buy online.
So when you like look at your paintings, I mean, it's sort of like the landscape looks real, like all the blending of the colors and stuff. How do you achieve that with wool?
So yeah, it's just like I say, just very gradual. So you mix your colours together. So I've got a couple of different colours of green here. So you've got the kind of limey green and this green. And if I'm just doing little bits, then I'm mixing together with my fingers. And you just keep on mixing until you get the shade that you want. And I've also got carding brushes, and I've got a big drum carder as well for if I'm doing bigger bits. But I tend to find that when I'm doing pictures, just mixing it with my fingers. And like I said before, just gradually building it up all the time. Because I wouldn't just sort of plonk that down. I would then take little bits and put the little bit down, stab it in, and then see if I needed to add more or what colours were needed to add. And it just kind of really kind of flows, you know, it just sort of all happens. One thing leads to another thing leads to another thing, and eventually there's a finished picture.
So I was talking to a friend who is from Shetland, and he was complaining that when he takes a picture of Shetland landscape, it sort of loses that, like those little flowers and the heather and like all those little details, and it just becomes like more blurred. Do you feel like because you're an artist and because you sort of have this artistic eye, you are able of like replicate it better than a picture?
I suppose in some ways, because you can put what you want into the picture, can't you? You can add it in yourself. And I know exactly what he means about photographs, because I'm always disappointed with my photographs. And you can never get, well, I suppose maybe if you've got an incredibly good camera, you can get a lot more detail into it, but actually getting detail in a photograph is hard. So yeah, it gives you've got your artistic license to add what you want into the picture. Quite often I do like embroidery at the front of the picture in the foreground, little embroidered French knots and different things like that to give it texture and colour in at the foreground. Which, yeah, you're right, if it's a photograph, unless I guess you digitally enhance it, your photograph's kind of what is there and that's it. Whereas making your picture, you can add to it and make it kind of special.
Right. Have you ever poked yourself with those barbed needles?
Yes. Yes, many times. It's not too sore though. They're so sharp, they sort of go in and out before you realise. Yeah, you have to keep your fingers out of the way, and you soon learn to keep your fingers out of the way.
So when you do when you have all these different colors that you're blending, right? Do you ever like run out of a color, and and if yes, then how do you deal with that? Like, do you have to have a ton of wool at home of every single possible color, or do you mix and match them?
I do have a ton of wool. I've got loads and loads of wool. And when I first started, I never seemed to have the right colour, so I had to buy every single colour. But I found now that I tend to, there's certain colours that I use all the time, and there's certain colours there that I never use. A little bit of wool goes a long way. So the wool that I've had, I don't think I've put an order in for maybe at least 1 year, maybe 2 years of wool, but I am actually beginning to run short on some of my favourite colours. So I am going to have to be reordering soon, but you can kind of mix the shades together sometimes and get roughly that colour anyway. So there is kind of ways round about it.
Right.
And there's such a lot of beautiful colours of wool that you can get. I mean, you could really go on forever buying.
So you mentioned that it's an expensive thing to buy a commissioned piece. How long does it take you, like on average, to work on, let's say, on the cow? Like, how long does it take you to create that portrait?
So the general size of a portrait cow that I've been doing recently is about sort of 40 centimetre image size, and it generally takes about 6 days, and that's 6 working days where I would say I probably work about 6 hours a day. So yeah, you're talking over 30 hours of work to get a cow like that. Yeah.
Do people get price shock, like sticker shock, when they hear how much it costs to create something like this?
It varies. Some people don't blink an eyelid, and you know they want their picture, and that's what they want, and other people can't afford it, and that is what sort of spurred me on. One of the reasons that spurred me on to get prints and things made, because not everybody can afford it, but you know, most people can afford a £2.50 magnet, so there's really something that everybody can afford. You don't have to have an original. But generally the people that are getting an original, it will be for maybe a spouse's special birthday or a special occasion, and so they do expect, I think they know how much work goes into it, and they do expect to pay a reasonable amount for it.
Right. So when you go to the markets and you sell there, is it ever like disappointing that you're hoping to sell a certain amount, or you expect to sell a certain amount and like nothing sells, or is it always like predictable income?
No, it's very up and down. You never really know what you'll sell. To start with, I guess I was maybe doing the wrong kind of markets, and so, you know, it'd be hit and miss if you had a good day or not. But over the last few years, I tend to do the same markets every year, the ones that I know work. I don't bother doing ones that don't work anymore. So it's generally okay, but you really never know what's going to sell at the market. Like sometimes we go and it's all mugs that sell, and the next time you go and it's all prints that sell, and you've taken loads of mugs with you because you think I'm going to sell loads of mugs today, and you don't sell any mugs that day. So it's very unpredictable about what you will actually sell. And then there's been a couple of places that I've gone that I've thought, right, this is going to be really super busy, this is going to be great, and it's not. And sometimes the weather is unpredictable. The weather, you know, people will come out if the weather's decent, but if it's too hot, people don't want to be at a craft fair if it's too hot either. So it just very much depends. So it is a bit hit and miss sometimes, but I think I've managed to figure out which craft fairs work and which ones don't work for me. And I guess it's different for everybody what works and what doesn't work.
Right. Is that seasonal also? Like, do you create different things for different seasons, or do you always just do the same things?
Usually around about this time of year, I try and do a couple of kind of wintry scenes. So this year though, I've been absolutely chock-a-block with commissions, so I really haven't had a chance to do that. So the last week I managed to catch up with all my commissions. I've only got one more to do before Christmas now. So I have managed to make 2 stock pictures, but I didn't go for winter scenes this year. But yeah, normally in the lead up to Christmas, I'll at least do a couple of winter scenes. But in general, I find that they sell all year round. Just the general kind of landscape pictures tend to sell all year round. And Highland cows, everybody loves a Highland cow all year. So
Right. Do you feel like because you're selling your art, it sort of stops you from exploring it purely from artistic point of view, that you like, you know what's going to sell, you know what's faster to make, what's easier to make, and that stops you from just exploration?
yes, in some ways, I suppose it does. You're right there. Yeah, it's my job, you know, and I'm doing it to pay the bills. And so I do tend to make what I know will sell. I do tend to do that. Whereas if it was a hobby, maybe I might have diversified into other things by now. I might have tried various different things. Yeah, because I bought like a weaving loom and things like that, but I've never had time to do any of it. You know, but one day I will get time to do it.
Well, I mean, is there a dream of like what you would like to try if you had time, and if it wasn't about paying bills?
I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know. I love to actually paint with acrylic paint. And that's what I tend to do if I do have an evening. If my husband's watching the football and things, then I'll come up and I'll paint pictures, and that's more my kind of hobby type thing that I do for myself.
Do you sell the acrylic as well?
Yes, yes, I do sell them as well, but or sometimes I just put them up on the wall.
Is there like a piece that you created that you would never sell?
No, there's a couple that I have sold that I wish now that I hadn't sold, that I wish I still had the original of them. But no, at the time, I think I've just made them and not maybe realised how special they are to me. I've just made them and somebody's wanted to buy them, so I've sold them. But yeah, there's a couple of pieces that I wish that I still had here.
Well, what made them so special?
Well, one is Tufty the cow, I think, which is this cow here that's on this coaster. And he is my most popular cow by miles. Everybody loves Tufty the cow. And I've had people, wee girls have spent their pocket money buying Tufty the cow, right up to sort of 80-year-old ladies have bought framed pictures of Tufty the cow. He just seems to have appeal to all age ranges. And I do know the person who bought it. I don't know her personally, but I know her daughter. And sometimes I just wish, oh, I'd quite like to have kept Tufty. Yeah.
Do you ever try to make something that's not flat as far as felting?
Yeah, so I've never tried 3D felting. There's a lassie that goes to one of the craft fairs that I go to, and she makes the most beautiful things. I believe you stab your finger a lot more with 3D felting than flat felting. But I mind when I was at school, and art was my favourite thing at school, but whenever we did clay or anything that was 3D, I really just didn't get it for some reason. It just wasn't my thing at all. Didn't get the results that I wanted. So I've never, and maybe like your last question about having time to try other things, maybe if I had more time to sit and try and develop my 3D felting skills, then yeah, I might have done that, but not at the moment.
So you mentioned that your mom is a knitter. Have you knitted ever?
No, I can't knit. I remember knitting when I was a wee girl, knitting a scarf, but that was about the extent of my knitting, I'm afraid.
When you see other people's felting, does that inspire you, gives you like new ideas? How do you, or do you see like things that they're doing wrong and you're doing better? Like, how do you approach other people's art?
Yeah, I mean, I'm part of some Facebook groups that other people do needle felting, and yeah, everybody's got their own style and their own expectations, and You know, it's like any artist, you know, I think everybody's so different and the way that they do things are different. Sometimes the results look quite similar and sometimes they look very different, but I wouldn't want to judge anybody's felting. But yeah, there's some people, Moy Mackay, have you heard of Moy Mackay? So she's a felting artist from down in the borders, and it's wet felting that she does. And really, I suppose to start with, I was inspired a lot by her work and by the painter Jolomo, who's a Scottish painter. And I loved the colours that both of them use such vibrant colours in their work, and that really inspired me to start with. And I think when you're starting out, it's important to look at other people's work. You know, and you do get ideas from other people. You're not copying them, but you certainly get ideas from other people, and then you develop your own style.
So like now you're teaching felting to others, but did anybody teach you, or did you just like figure it all out by yourself?
Yeah, so like I said, the lassie that I used to work with, and she did some needle felting. So just through like discussions in the staff room at work, I kind of figured out how it was done, you know, and I went up to her house one day and saw the piece that she was working on. So I didn't go to like an official class or anything. It was just more trial and error. Once I got the starter kit that I bought for Christmas, I just sat down and gave it a try and broke a lot of needles. And
So if somebody just like toying with the idea of starting felting, what would you advise? Like where should they start? What they like must have? What's good sources to look into?
yeah, so I would say to buy yourself a starter kit, and the starter kit would come with a foam pad. Usually it doesn't come with the felt. I just needle felt onto just acrylic felt, bog standard stuff that you can buy in the shop. But it'll come with maybe 12 to 15 little balls of different colours of wool. And they usually come with kind of 5 needles. You might need extra needles. And that's really how I would advise anybody to start. You know, don't go out there buying big balls of wool, putting out lots and lots of money. Just start small and start making just some wee very simple landscapes and just kind of build yourself up, because you could do like just a seascape or just a wee hill in the background. You don't have to have houses or anything fancy to start with.
Right.
And just, I always say to people, you know, just to message me if they want any advice, just send me a wee message and ask.
Do you sell kits yourself? Like did you try to do that?
I have done that at one point, maybe about 5 years ago. I think I was going to a knit fest in Inverness and I made up some kits, and yeah, they sold like hotcakes. They were very, very popular. It's just the time of making up the kits at the minute and weighing the wool and everything. But yeah, they're very popular. You can buy them though. I get a lot of my wool from World of Wool, which they're down in England. So they sell starter kits, and there's various different places that you can buy them from.
Are your children interested in felting as well?
No. No, they're not artistic at all. They're more academic, the boys. They're not into any kind of art at all. And they've never been, and it's a shame because I've always loved it. Obviously, when they were little, we used to do drawing and things at the kitchen table. My niece, though, she's about to turn 12, she loves art and she's really good at art. So when she comes through, we have a little blather about art. And it's somebody that I can buy nice pencils for at Christmas and things, because my boys would not appreciate it, but my niece Georgia just loves to get coloured pencils and pens and nice boxes to keep them in and all those kinds of things. So yeah, it's a treat to be able to go into Hobbycraft or somewhere and get her some nice things.
Have you met like a lot of interesting people that you wouldn't meet otherwise if you didn't do the felting?
Definitely. I mean, people that have commissioned things, but also just meeting people at craft fairs, all the people from all over the world, you know, and I've sent my pictures all over the world, and you meet such a diverse amount of people at craft fairs. And I'm in general quite a quiet person, so it helps to have my mum with me when I'm at the craft fair, because she'll speak to anybody. And people actually, when she didn't come out a few times last year, you know, when we were just sort of opening up after COVID and things, she was still a wee bit wary, and people were asking after her, and where's your mum today and things like that. So that definitely helps. But yeah, we've met some absolutely amazing people, and some people that really have become friends as well.
Right. How is Instagram for you? Like, how do you use it?
So I'm not very technical. I really need to brush up on my technical skills. I don't post enough. I should be posting more things. I post onto Facebook and automatically goes onto Instagram for me. But I could probably do going on a workshop for all these kind of media things, because, and I know that the more you post, the more people follow your page and everything. But I don't know, days will go past and I haven't posted anything, then I'll sort of think of 5 things to post in one day, but and pop it all on. But yeah, so Instagram's good. It's good, and I seem to get a lot of people commenting. Sometimes I find that the people who follow me are fellow artists, maybe more than customers on Instagram. The people who comment on things are the same people all the time, so I could do with spreading my reach a little bit more.
So like, is that frustrating, the whole marketing part of the job? Because like at the end of the day, you're an artist, but you also like a one-woman show where you have to do social media, you have to market, you have to package, you have to send, you have to like create. Is that frustrating to have to do everything?
Yeah, it is sometimes. Sometimes I like being in control and knowing that I'm responsible for everything, you know, but yeah, sometimes it's hard and sometimes it's exhausting. Keeping the accounts and things, I find things like that really hard because I'm not mathematical at all. So, you know, just trying to keep on top of things, ordering things, stock takes. I find stock takes, spreadsheets and things like that impossible to get my head around. So yeah, there's so many things. Yeah, I'm everything. I'm the secretary, the cleaner, the stock taker, the orderer, the salesperson. Yeah.
So if you could hire somebody to give part of your responsibilities to, right? What would that be?
Well, I'd quite like actually to hire somebody just to do the housework for me and cook the dinner. And then I would have time to do all these things.
Do you have any other hobbies, interests, like besides felting or painting?
Yeah, so my painting, and I've got a dog, so I go out a lot with the dog. The boys, one of my boys is down in Edinburgh now, at university, so just family things, going through, see my mum and dad, just normal things. I guess sometimes I'm working 12 hours a day doing this, so it doesn't leave a lot of time, but I try and get out every day with the dog and feel so much better for actually doing it, you know, because sometimes you think I'm so busy, I just don't want to go out, but getting out there is good for you to get out in fresh air.
Right. Do you feel like working for yourself, doing artistic things, do you feel like you sort of, you know how people ask like, so what do you do to take care of yourself? Like, what do you do for you? Do you feel like this is what you do for you all day long because you love doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the things that I do for me are occasionally like another 2 couples and myself and my husband, we went away out last week to Inverness and we seen a comedian and we went out for dinner. So we try and make time to do things like that, you know, and just relax and chill out.
Right.
That's kind of what I do. I mean, obviously, yes, if it was just making pictures all day, it's in no way stressful. A lot of people have got really stressful jobs, and I'm so lucky to be able to sit in a warm house and make pictures every day. You know, it's great, and it is, like I say, listening to my stories, and so I have a very lucky life doing what I do.
Right. Is there like ever a day when you're not creating anything?
Nope.
So it's 7 days a week, like 365 days a year.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. Yeah, because like I say, even like in my spare time, it's I'll come upstairs and paint a picture. So yeah, or what else do I like doing? Or just, you know, like making Halloween decorations, or we had a big party in the summer, so I made big palm trees and things like that, you know, to decorate the garden. There's always something to do. When the kids were little, I used to love, like, we lived up in Shetland at one point, and we used to get, you know, big cardboard boxes and make up heli ships and things like that. So yeah, I don't know, we're always up to something.
Do you love living in Scotland? Like, is there any way you would see yourself living in some faraway exotic lands?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't go too far away from my mum and dad. We went to Shetland for about 4 years and we lived in Shetland. It's definitely not far away or exotic, but no,
Well,
I
it
like
is
being,
for me.
yeah, well, yeah,
To me, that's like
but
a
yeah,
dream destination. So it
I
sounds far
bet,
away and
yeah.
exhausting.
But I mean, it is absolutely beautiful in Shetland. It is. I think we enjoy going to hot places for our holidays, but I think going somewhere for your holidays is different than having to actually work in that heat and things.
Right.
It depends where the boys end up when they get full-time jobs and things. You know, it depends where they end up, where we'll end up, I guess.
So what's the comfort food for you? Like, what would you, if you're missing home, what would you think about to eat that's gonna bring that sense of home to you?
My most favourite dinner is mince and tatties and beans.
Okay.
So that is my absolute favourite, and that's what we used to have when we were young. And I think every time I have it, I say to the boys, you know, this is my favourite dinner. They're like, yes, we know that, Mum. So yeah, mince and potatoes and beans all mashed up together.
That sounds delicious, actually.
Yes, it is.
What would they say their favorite thing? Like when they come home from university, what do they crave?
Yeah, well, John, the eldest one, he came home from university yesterday to spend 2 days with us, and we had chicken fajitas last night. That's his favourite.
Oh,
Chicken
interesting.
fajitas and sticky toffee pudding with cream.
So do you feel like you are, because you have international customers, do you feel like that broadens your like knowledge of the world and your exposure to the world?
It maybe broadens my exposure to the world. I don't know, because I guess mostly we're just talking about the art. You know, if they've commissioned something, we're just talking about that, really. So probably not. If you ever make it to Scotland, though, you can come and visit us, and I'll make you mince and tatties.
I'd love that. I would absolutely love that. It's actually like my dream to go to Scotland for like Scotland, Ireland, Shetland, and just spend like a couple months going through the places, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
It,
yeah. You should.
it looks really beautiful. Well, thank you so very much for being my guest today and for telling me about your life and your crafts. And I have a question for you. How can my viewers help you to bring more attention to your business and to you?
Yeah, well, I guess even if they're on Facebook or on Instagram, then yeah, just sharing the page and commenting. I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Just getting people to comment on your posts and share your posts, and it just spreads it around a little bit every time. So it'd be great if they could do that. That'd be brilliant.
Right. Well, we're also gonna post all the information, all the links to your Facebook and your Instagram and your website in the description of this video, so people who are interested in your art can find you and follow you.
Okay, that would be grand. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on.